Glasgow Derby, Old Firm, you can call it what you like. That was a commentary comment that stood out in that first half. This is a Celtic state of mind. I think we'll just be calling it the Glasgow Derby. But before we get there, Kev, we need to talk about Livingston. It's half time, it's scoreless. You and I have done a lot of games this season, and it's been very similar, whereby the first 45 we have dominated. It looks as though obviously there's banks of four in the defensive area at Livingston. That is what we expect. And it's about chipping away. We've had a couple of chances. What do you think has gone wrong in that first half? Because I think it comes down sometimes to the final ball, slack passes. That's the things that have stood out for me. It's not been a bad performance, Kev.
No, it's not. And before I can answer that question, actually the line of commentary that stood out for me in that first 45 minutes was when James McFadden has a wee chuckle to himself when he sees the third replay of the non-penalty on Kyogo, because that is an absolute stonewaller. I know we'll get to that later on, but it's an absolute stonewaller of a penalty. You can see in the first couple of replays almost trying to defend the decision, and then there's just that irrefutable one again where you see Devlin's coming from behind and made no contact with the ball, plenty of contact with the back of Kyogo, and how that's not a penalty, I do not know. But yeah, to answer the question of what's gone wrong, it's just been about the final ball, because we've done everything else right. Completely dominated the possession, controlled the midfield. The guy is Tete Yenge. It's caused a few problems up front, especially up against Scales. But in fairness, we've managed that pretty well, because we're winning the second ball once it's dropped back down. Going forward, it has just been that final pass that's let us down, because we've got into some decent positions. We just haven't been able to play the final cross or the final through ball. I'm sure it will come, because, like you say, we've been in this position before quite a few times this season. There's no real need to panic. Other than the goal, we've got this game kind of where we want it. Just if we had a goal, it would give us a lot more confidence going into the second half. It's the only thing that's missing.
Yeah. And I want to bring in the comments from the viewers, because one of the things yesterday that was levied at Acsom was we are bringing up refereeing decisions because it's a title race. Absolute nonsense. 2017 was the first episode of Acsom 7 years ago. It's between 1,500 and 2,000 episodes, and we cover every single game. And every time there is a refereeing decision that needs discussed, we've discussed it. We've called them out. It doesn't matter if we win 7-1 or if we lose the game, Kev. We've always done it. And today, in that first 45, there has been a massive call, and the refs got it wrong, and the VAR's got it wrong. It went to VAR. It was one of these 3-second checks on the VAR system, Kev. Mm-hmm. You look at that situation there, a few minutes before it, right? Matt O'Reilly is penalised just outside the box while Celtic are on the attack. You'll remember it. And he barely touches it. And he says to the ref, look, margins, tiny margins. He barely touches the guy, but he gives away a cheap free kick. Was it a free kick? Yes, it was. Why? Because he climbed all over the guy's body and he put him off weight and basically won the ball as a result of that, played the ball through. Right, okay, so if that's a free kick, if that is something that is deemed to be a foul, Kev, and you compare it to the Kyogo one from Devlin in the box, it's a foul all day long. The defender goes right through the back of him, right? And he takes both feet out the game, and he doesn't get anywhere near the ball. Kyogo ends up on the deck. Kyogo's hobbling away afterwards. So instantly when you look at it as the referee with a great line of vision, it's a foul then, but it gets called to VAR because the refs missed it. It gets called to VAR, right? And he has a look at it on the VAR, and it's deemed not. The VAR check is deemed not to be a penalty kick. What part of that are they not seeing? It's taking the 2 feet of Kyogo out the game. He's ended up on the deck. There is no contact with the ball whatsoever. And this is why it's important. I know Celtic haven't been great in the first 45. I'm also not concerned, and I think we're going to win in the second half. Right? I think we've done enough to show that we're going to turn the screw here. But that's a penalty all day long. And this is where the frustration lies. And I'm going to bring in some of the there you go, CJ. That's your exact words. That was a penalty all day long. And this is the issue that I've got here. Stephen O'Rourke denied a stonewall penalty, but our final product has been rotten. Yeah, I absolutely agree with that. A clearer penalty than yesterday's gift. This is the frustration. Stonewall penalty, says Trey Dickerson. I think that there, in a nutshell, is what we're up against, Kev. And as Jungle Lion says, there's a league to be won here. You've got to, I think, use that to fuel your fire at half-time. In the short term, Kev, we can do nothing about the state of this situation with the referees. But at half-time, we've got to use it to fuel our fire. This is what you're up against here. We're going to have to probably score a couple of goals in the second half to make sure we get one. That was dreadful, a dreadful piece of officiating, but we've seen it all season, haven't we?
Yeah, we have. Like you say, so I've not been on Acsom for the full 7 years, but I do know that from the time I've been on, maybe the last 3 or 4 years, anytime there's a contentious refereeing decision, whether it goes for or against Celtic, we talk about it. And we've had shows on here where there's been pretty much arguments going on that we've had two opposing views. Yes, it was a foul for Celtic. No, it wasn't. I think we tend to give a fairly balanced approach in these things. And we've done it when we've been winning games, drawing games, losing games. The scoreline doesn't matter. If there's a poor decision, we talk about it and we'll call it out. It's just what we do because we analyse the game. That decision there today was just, in that first half, it's ridiculous. I don't know how you couldn't give it. Like, ball comes into Kyogo. Devlin's come in from behind him. There's foot on foot contact there. There's a knee into the back of the leg as well. There's like a double collision from Devlin into him. He's nowhere near winning the ball. If that offence happens anywhere else in the park, can you highlight the Matt O'Reilly one? If it happens anywhere else in the park, it's a free kick. It's a foul. So why is it not a foul in the box? It's a stonewall penalty for me. And then you just need to look at the game yesterday and the penalty that Rangers get. So when that cross comes in, it's two boys jumping up for a challenge. Neither of them are anywhere near the ball because it's too high for them, and the ref just waves play on at the time. Now VAR pulls it back for a clear and obvious error because that's what VAR's there for. There was nothing clear or obvious. It was an error in that call. I think the ref called it spot on. But it changes the course of the game because they get the penalty. Okay, they miss it, but they've got the momentum behind them. This is something, again, that happens here. It's, 5 minutes before half-time. If we get that penalty and score it, it completely changes the course of this game. You think, right, we'll go in and we could hit 2, 3, 4 goals in the second half. To not get it, to see Kyogo hobbling around for a few minutes afterwards, that could add kind of insult to injury. Literally an injury with that one, depending on how severe he's been connected with there. You could actually have a player fouled, no penalty given, and have to go off the field injured and miss your next game. Mm-hmm. There's so many repercussions from that. It's terrible refereeing. And the fact that, you have a VAR that's come in and checked it. It normally takes about 30 seconds to 5 minutes to make a call in Scottish football. They've called it within 3 and said, nah, no penalty, play on. I don't know. Don't want to sound paranoid, but there gets to a point where you just think that they're not even hiding it anymore. That was blatantly a penalty.
Yeah, it's not paranoid. And when you break it down, like we did on Friday night with Alan Morrison, and put it out there, it's not paranoia. I mean, that's just the cheapest way of trying to win the argument. Just shout them down, call them paranoid, call them moonhowlers. This is the nonsense you get from the gullibles, and not even just from them, from some of the pundits, because the extent of the research they'll put into it. I sometimes wonder, actually, when they're commenting on decisions that are made, if they have actually studied the rules of the game. Because I'll tell you something, I wouldn't appear on here, never mind Sky, without having any kind of knowledge or any kind of reference point to the rules that you're actually trying to deconstruct. And I think that when you hear some of the nonsense that you hear on the mainstream right now at half-time in the analysis, it makes you wonder, Kev. Craig McMahon, you're coming in. Sorry, McMicken should have had a clear penalty. I agree with you 100%. Now, AR, absolutely, we'll be talking about the performance of Celtic. This is a normal now, slow one-paced. Kevin and I have sat here at half-time on a number of occasions this season with this type of football under Brendan Rodgers, where it's very slow-paced. It's very side-to-side. It's all about possession. And what tends to happen, I think, is because we've lost that tempo that we had under Ange, it's not about looking back with the love hearts coming out our heads here. We have completely changed the way that we attack, where we get them on the back foot. And, we've not seen as much of that. And we've had only a few clear-cut chances, which we will discuss as well. The Kurgan I like Maida, but he's bad more than he is good. I'm not sure. I think when you look at Maida, I think the ball's getting out to Maida generally from Hatate have given him a lot of the possession. I think my biggest criticism in the first half hasn't been the player. It's been the fact that we haven't used the right wing as much as the left, because I think when Kuhn's got the ball, Kev, he's shown that he can, he's got the beating of the fullback. And on 2 or 3 occasions, he has created a chance by dribbling and being direct and having that impact. I just don't think we've used them enough.
I actually think that both the wide players have got the beating of their fullbacks. Maeda seems to have, is it Nottingham on toast, and similar on the other side. Anytime Kuhn's got the ball, he's been direct, I think, and taking his man on, hit the byline a couple of times, been involved in some of our best moves. It's maybe something we could try and do a wee bit more of in the second half. But for me, the man we need to get on the ball in that half is Rio Hatate. I thought he's been excellent in the first half.
Mm-hmm.
I say excellent. I'm then going to criticise him a little bit because I think some of his passing, his final ball, the same as everyone. It's just not quite been there. But he's done that thing, and he's brought the thing that Rio brings every time he's on the football pitch, is he dares to play the pass. He's adventurous. He's taking us forward. There's some of those crossfield balls that he's put out into the far corner for Kuhn to run onto that have been sublime. We get him back in the ball a bit more in the first 15, 20 minutes of the second half and just get him dictating play. I'm sure the chances will come. And he's been unlucky himself with a couple of his efforts that have been just over and just wide. So for me, he's the key. But in terms of the wide areas, I would love to see Kuhn get a bit more of the ball because he's an exciting player. He doesn't just look like Paddy Roberts with the hair. He's got the quick feet as well and that ability to take men on. So let's see what he can do if he gets more of the ball in the second half.
Yeah, I think in most occasions this season, Kev, where we've sat here at half time and it's been nothing each, we've seen a tempo change in the first 10 minutes of the second half, whereby we've got the lead. And then, that at that point, it allows you then to not take the foot off the pedal, but then to open the game up. And that's what we've done on a number of occasions. Livingston are fighting and tooth and nail for their life this season, because I think the stat that was interesting, because I hadn't checked it in the first half there, the last time Livingston dropped out the league, they remained in the Championship and actually League One for 12 years before they got back in. And I said during the week that if they drop down, they're out this league for 10 years because they don't have the financial influx of cash that they're going to need to rebuild and come back up to the Premiership. So they are fighting tooth and nail. If we score a goal, it opens it up, because they will need to try and come out and attack to try and nick a draw. Paul Leinster, those who continually slag off Maida, this is the other end of the argument, the other side of the argument, don't seem to have a clue what he brings to the team. I'm in your camp with this, Paul, and I call him a cult hero in that he can score a hat-trick in the same game that he misses 3 sitters. He's that type of player. But what he brings in terms of the work rate, the defensive quality, is huge. And yes, we have seen a kind of typical cross that's ended up in the stand, but we've also seen another one where he's created a bit of havoc in the middle where he's played a ball in. Some of the best moves I feel have come from Carter Vickers playing an excellent over-the-top ball, nice and quick. Matt O'Reilly opening things up beautifully by playing a ball through to Kuhn. And I think that the chance that Kyogo had that forced the first save, actually, first shot on target, was phenomenal play by Kyogo, and you've got to give him credit for that. He was a whisker away from opening and scoring. It's these kind of margins that mean I'm sitting here and I'm not panicking, because I think that we're far superior to this Livingston side. And what I want to see in the second half, first 10 minutes in particular, is just upping that tempo, refining the final ball, Kev. I think Hatate, a couple of shots in the first half, just, getting his sights right, give him another chance, he's going to score it. You get that penalty, which was a stonewall penalty, and you're ahead. And it's not, I don't think, about relying on a penalty kick. This is where the Alan Morrison episode on Friday was very interesting. When you get a penalty and how that affects the game. And if Celtic get that penalty in that first half, we're winning the game. You look at the going ahead in the first half stats, you can break it down to those kind of specifics, Kev. If you go into the break at half time and you're a goal up, Celtic are winning this game. Look at the stats. Look at the percentage of games that you will win going in at the break, a goal up. That's what we're talking about here. The impact of not giving that penalty is huge. The impact is absolutely massive. And the stat is, across the board, 79% likelihood that you're going to score. Celtics has not been as good as that this season, and I get it. But it's the fact that, you know, the 79% chance of scoring a goal. So you're going into a halftime break, a goal up, and the chances at that point of you losing the game are slim to none. And these things are known, and these decisions are getting made, Kev, like that. He's not even being asked to go over and have a look at the monitor because it's not a clear and obvious error when anybody else who watches it can see that it is. That's the issue that we've got. We're going into the second half. We should have enough to beat this Livingston side. Let's go and rejoin the action. Thank you, 1,800 plus, every single one of you for getting involved in the chat in the comments section. Enjoy the second half, and thank you to Kevin McCluskey for joining me on a Celtic State of Mind.